Good morning, everyone. This is our regular um, YouTube platform. We talk about issues in Africa. So today our topic is how West, especially America, how they try to make a fight between them and China over Africa. But in reality, America cannot compete, and Western countries they don't want to compete in Africa. They don't want to compete in Africa because why? They don't want to pay money to compete. They see Africa as a some place where they can just go and take the resources and create many conflict and diseases and problem for Africa. So, in that way, they can send their militaries there and occupy the territory. That's what we see how West um, try to do in Africa. If they really have interest in Africa, they will go and invest. But they know if they invest in money, that will lift Africa out of poverty. But they don't want that. They want to create. They see Africa as a conflict place and disease place. So where everybody should run away. This is how they see Africa. And when they see Chinese, because they don't want Chinese to develop. Turkeys are there, Brazilians are coming. So Africa has a more choice in their hand. So they don't want that. So we Africans need to understand this game. The game is the West has been playing. That game is over. So now there are so many options in the hands of Africans for them to play. If they play their card right, things will change. If you listen to this person here, he's saying the same thing.
The
You know,
bubble of people who specifically focus on Africa more broadly in DC, there is a feeling that it's very difficult for Africa to be on the agenda at all. And then when it is on the agenda, it happens within very specific fields. So there isn't a wide range of discussion necessarily about the continent here. And in some ways, kind of like the discussion about China, similarly, both ever present, but also kind of very specifically hemmed in by within certain kind of assumptions. So there's a very much a mixed bag, but there's certainly a lot of very interesting conversations to be had. Talking about the assassination attempt.
okay. So if we look at it, everywhere, I think everybody knows this. Only the Africans who don't know this game. West, their interest in Africa is only about getting resources cheap, rare mineral resources that they can get out of Africa. Other than that, they don't care about anything. So I'm happy to see what is happening in those three countries in West Africa. Niger, Burkina, and Mali. If this trend continue, we get few countries on board to join Sahel states. That will be so good. So right now, even they had a what they call it a NATO summit. West is concerned about Russians' involvement in Africa because they know if Russians are involved, Chinese are involved, they have no choice. They don't have no leverage that they used to have, which whereby they can come and take over resources, where they can pressure individual states to accept their military bases. They can roam around in African airspace. They can put their NGOs on the ground to manipulate, to recruit, sell out in Africa. So these are the issues Africans need to address. And they need to be very, very careful. We don't need to be loyal to nobody. We just need to, organize ourselves and learn how to gang up. These people, when they come to your country, they gang up. We know Niger, how many countries has a military base there? US has a four military base or three. France has a 4 military bases. Germans are there. Italians are there. But that could not even solve the problem. How can you have these super, what we call the superpowers, developed countries? They all have their military bases there. They have a drone bases there. They can see entire Africa, what is happening there. But one small country like Niger, they cannot see where the terrorist groups are coming. They cannot stop. And there was a time, even France, Niger army said this. They said, if you see a terrorist group, you shouldn't shoot them. You have to take an order from them. You see what I'm saying? So these people, they don't come to Africa to help Africa. They come there with their own foreign policy, their agenda. Their agenda is to create a chaos in those places so that they can move in. They can justify their moving into Africa. So Africans need to understand this game. So we, instead of we fighting our among ourselves, if we know the game they are playing, we will we will be okay. So, but so these are the things they play. And second thing, like yesterday, I made a reference about the system that is happening, the new system that BRICS countries are creating. We hope more African countries to join. I think Nigeria should be the first country to apply, but Nigeria, for some reason, they're not lucky to have a leader. If Nigeria, if we can have a real Pan Africanism in Nigerian government, leading Nigeria, entire West Africa will be straight, and Africa will be okay. And how can we have a leaders like Tinubu and African Union chairperson Faki Muhammad, and we have ECOWAS, the useless organization, who are controlled by the West. These are the problems that need to uh, that Africans need to talk about. So my thing is this Chinese thing, Europeans and Americans media, um, either CIA or MI5, they had some big propaganda within African society to hate Chinese. But Africans, one thing they don't understand, the more we have a Chinese, the more we will have a leverage in international market. Because if we don't have people to compete over our resources, we will never be able to free ourselves. Because the way West control Africa, West don't believe in democracy. We think these people believe in democracy. They will never want democracy to exist in Africa. They know if that happen, they will lose. I was reading some article the other day. You know what France think? France think the biggest threat of France is a Pan-Africanism. So if I hear some Africans are saying, "Oh, I don't support Pan-Africanism. I don't support," without a Pan Africanism, Africa will be dead because there's no state in Africa that can fight this power alone. It's impossible. That's what we need to look at it. It's like in your family house. If a one man came there and he attacked individually one person there, nobody come and help. He will beat all you guys one on one. But once Africans learn how to gang up, nobody will try you. So I hope Africans we learn how to organize ourselves and mobilize ourselves at the same time, and learn how to gang up on anybody who try to manipulate and loot Africa. So these are the things. If not, we all will be living outside of Africa and keep sending working and sending money. So those things are something it cannot continue. Africa has the resources. Africa has the manpower. Africa has the strongest people in the planet. But why Africa cannot make it? If you look at wherever black people live, they live below everybody, because Africa is the place where because of Africa. If Africa get things together, A black person in Latin America, a black person in America, a black person anywhere they live, they will live in a dignified way. That's what we need to understand. As long we couldn't create it, Africa could not create that kind of situation for their citizens, nobody is going to respect you. So these are the things we need to find a way to solve it our own. So I believe Africans, we need to join together and and use a Pan African platform to mobilize our people and organize ourselves to remove these people from Africa. You know, we cannot rely on anybody. Nobody care about Africa. Nobody love Africa. Nobody will love Africa more than Africans. So we need to get this in our head. It's better to understand it this way before it get too late. Yeah. So those are the things. So please, um, subscribe and share this platform. This is just a starting. We want to improve it.
Get financing from Chinese company. So even into that space, when you look into that into Africa, you still realize that even going through the allies, there's still a lot of things that there's still a lot of weaknesses they have to overcome. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this is probably my fourth or fifth year of coming every summer to do these tours and to have these conversations. And Kobus, it's interesting because this year the tone was very different than in past years. During the Trump years, there was this urgency to confront China. And during the early Biden years, there was this idea that says, okay, we're back in the game again. We're now really going to be able to confront China and Africa. And this time, in so many of the conversations we had across the board, from diplomats to policymakers to scholars and analysts, there was a sense almost of resignation that people know that they can't catch up to the Chinese anymore in Africa. They know that. There's an admission of it. That's not something I would have heard 3 or 4 years ago. And now they're trying to find ways that they can compete to their strengths and they can play more to U.S. strengths. That was a lot of the conversations we had is what can the U.S. do that's not in direct competition? Because as Jeho pointed out, we're not going to be able to see the Americans go head to head with mining in the Congo. No matter how much people want that to be the case, it's not going to happen. But there was almost this lamenting that.
Okay. According to the speaker there, America will never want to compete with the Chinese in Africa. Because why? America doesn't have any interest for Africa to develop. They have an interest to get Africa's resources at any cost, but they don't want to go there, build a structure, build a business structure, or any companies, factories for Africa to develop. They see Africa as a charity continent, just like Traore said, a continent of slaves. So this need to change. So we need to understand this game. But Africans, for some reason, we get emotional. We fall for their propaganda. They will say, "Oh, China take over Africa. China is taking over Africa. China is colonizing Africa." No, China is creating a competition, and people are competing. Yes, other countries are coming to compete, and Africa has more choices today than before. So please subscribe and share the live and share this platform. So I will see you next time. Thank you.